Welcome to Ascend Pittsburgh, an indoor rock climbing gym on the south side of downtown Pittsburgh. Ascend opened just over a year ago last March, and it seems as though the sport of indoor rock climbing is becoming very popular very fast. My belief is that people are so enthusiastic about the sport because it's a great way to incorporate some fun into your exercise. Our University of Pittsburgh team of industrial engineers in training saw an opportunity at Ascend to help with some work process and improve its efficiencies. One of Ascend's founders, Aaron Gilmore, even admitted to our team that they have felt some growing pains since opening because of the extremely high volume of customers.
Hello, my name is Adam Sneath. This is our project for IE1054 Productivity Analysis class.
I'm Lindsay Myer.
And I'm Zitsch. We decided to do our presentation on Ascend Pittsburgh, which is a rock climbing facility located in the south side. And rock climbing is an accessible sport for a range of different athletic abilities, and as comes with any fledgling activity, there's always injury that can occur, and we want to make sure that safety is the top priority. Here at Ascend, the work environment, they work 2 different shifts, either morning or evening, and the workers have 3 different jobs that they're responsible for: working the front desk, running training and classes, and everyday maintenance.
So here we have Jenna. She's a prospective new climber at Ascend. She really wants to get into climbing, but to do so, she has to do 3 things. First, she has to learn about protocol. Then she has to learn about safety, and finally she has to learn about layout. So to learn about all these things, she'll go through a walkthrough or a tour of the facility. So on slow days, the tour is very efficient. You can learn everything and you need to know. But on really busy days, the tour is a little chaotic and can be distracting. So it tends to put a lot of stress on the workers, confuses the new climbers, and then that puts everyone at risk. So when observing these walkthroughs, we found many problems with them. So we found that people were really confused about the systems, such as the color coding system. They didn't really know what the easiest route to start from was because they were new climbers. They were really concerned about their safety because they didn't really go through this a lot, but you're supposed to follow a certain way, and they weren't sure how to do that. And with the crowd, they weren't really prepared to do so. They didn't really know where the locker rooms were. And finally, because of the huge crowds, people in the back really couldn't see the tour. The tour consisted on busy days about 20 to 30 people, and with the most amount of tours happening on these busy days, that created a lot of chaos. It wasn't good for safety.
In terms of the metrics of the project, we measured distance and time using iPhone apps. The iPhone app that measured the distance was a camera that utilized the camera features to measure each distance.
So we quickly realized that it would be beneficial to develop a comprehensive facility layout diagram. This diagram was hand-drawn using the Notability iPhone app. And you can see that each part of the gym is clearly labeled, drawn roughly to scale, and we've also included various measurements that we recorded as well. Next, overlaid on that same diagram, we developed a map of the walkthrough footpath. So what you see here is that generally the walkthrough begins here near the front desk, follows this red arrow all the way around the central boulder, finishing again near the front desk here. And you also see on this diagram 5 quadrants that we determined, and these were determined in order to help us with our time study, which will be discussed shortly. So here we have a flow process chart that we developed. The process chart catalogs each element of the walkthrough process. Now, we decided on the elements as far as things that were repeatable or that we noticed different employee tour guides to each mention throughout the walkthrough process. You'll also see that we've included any assumptions that we made here And the one example of our first element here, gather the tour goers at point 1. So this is meant to be used in conjunction with the facility layout diagram, and it references it in a few places. Next is our time study data. You'll see this particular form was from the first Saturday that we recorded data for. Again, assumptions are listed, and the difficulty in performing a time study is in the stylistic preferences of different tour guides. So ultimately we determined there to be 37 work elements in our process chart, and it was not realistic to time each of those elements individually because one employee may present them in a different order than the next employee. So that was not realistic. We decided to break the gym into those 5 quadrants. The quadrants were chosen because those are the areas typically where the tour guide will stop the group and describe the specific area of the gym. So we decided that it would be sufficient to record the amount of time spent in each of those quadrants, and ultimately that would give us a good enough representation of the standard time for the entire process. So on this particular day, we observed 8 walkthroughs, and an example of the elements, so first element is gathering the tour goers, and next we simply recorded the time spent describing the first gym quadrant as mapped on that previous diagram. Moving now towards our results and our recommendations. Essentially what we've done is reduced the number of gym quadrants from 5 to just 3, and what we're suggesting is that the tours start over here, so starts over here, not too far from where it was being started previously, and I'll preface this by saying that our goal was to reduce both the distance and the time spent on this walkthrough process. So before we could do that, we developed a value stream map and decided which elements of the walkthrough were non-value added. We decided that those elements could be removed from the walkthrough process in order to reduce the distance and reduce the time. So now again, we're proposing that we start the tour over here and describe this entire quadrant of the gym. Then following the red arrows again to point number 2 here, where sort of the middle quadrant will be described. You can describe the front desk and the merchandise. Next, we'll proceed to point 3 and describe this area of the gym. Finally, returning back toward the front desk and finishing at this point here. Ultimately, a significant reduction in distance was achieved by our proposition, and also a reduction in the time spent on the walkthrough. So from our time study, we determined that on average, about 14.5 minutes were spent on the walkthrough process. After removing all of the non-value adding elements, we estimated that the standard time would be about 9.4 minutes, and cumulatively, that's a reduction of about 5 minutes in standard time for the walkthrough process. And this is beneficial for a number of reasons. So the reduction in time allows the employees to focus on the other aspects of their job and will reduce some of the stress on them associated with conducting these walkthrough processes over and over again throughout the day. Secondly, reducing the distance of the tour will be beneficial for the climbers in the gym. So that way you won't be sort of impeded by this touring process going all the way around the gym. The tour will sort of be localized to the front desk area, and we decided that it would still be sufficient to conduct all of the value-adding work elements of the walkthrough process. In conclusion, we'd like to thank Dr. Joel Haight, our course professor, and Aaron Gilmore, one of the founders at Ascend, for giving us permission to do this project. Thank you.